That's impossible. My ex has been in my life longer than you. Those words came out of her mouth so casually, like she was stating the weather. Like my feelings were an inconvenience she had to swat away. I'm Dustin, and I've been married to Julie for 3 years. 3 years where I thought I was building a life with someone who loved me. But that sentence, delivered with such careless certainty, showed me I'd been competing with a ghost the entire time. Let me take you back to how we got here. That afternoon started like any other. We were sitting in the living room, the TV playing some forgettable show neither of us was really watching. It was the comfortable kind of silence married couples share, or at least what I thought was comfortable. Her phone lit up on the coffee table between us, and I saw the name before she could grab it. James. Her ex. The one she swore was ancient history, buried somewhere in a past that didn't matter anymore. But the way she froze, just for half a second, told me everything. Her eyes widened, her hand shot out faster than necessary, and she snatched that phone like it was on fire. She didn't answer it in front of me. Instead, she stood up, phone pressed against her chest, and practically ran out of the living room. I heard the bedroom door close, then the soft murmur of her voice through the walls. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but our apartment wasn't that big. I heard her laugh, soft, genuine, the kind of laugh I hadn't heard from her in months. Maybe longer. The sound of it hollowed me out. 15 minutes passed. I sat there on that couch, staring at the TV without seeing it, my mind racing through every conversation we'd had about James. She told me their relationship ended badly, that he'd chosen his career over her, that she'd moved on completely. He's not a threat, she'd said once, when I'd asked about a box of old photos I found in the closet. It's just nostalgia. When she finally emerged from the bedroom, everything about her had changed. She was wearing the black dress, the one I'd bought her for our second anniversary at Nordstrom, the one she'd said was too much, and had only worn once. Her makeup was perfect, winged eyeliner sharp enough to cut. The perfume hit me before she even fully entered the room, that expensive Chanel she saved for special occasions. She was checking herself in the hallway mirror, adjusting her hair, and I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Diamond earrings. Not the ones I'd given her for Christmas. These were different, studs that caught the light in a way that felt familiar though I couldn't place why. She grabbed her purse from the entry table, her car keys already in hand. Where are you going? I asked, keeping my voice level. She barely glanced at me. Just meeting an old friend for coffee. Coffee. In a cocktail dress and heels at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night. I stood up from the couch, my hands suddenly needing something to do. Julie, I saw the name on your phone. It was James, wasn't it? Her hand froze on the doorknob. For a moment, I thought she might lie, might try to spin some story I'd pretend to believe just to avoid this conversation. But instead, she turned around with this look on her face, half defiance, half irritation. So what if it was? We're just friends, Dustin. You're being paranoid. Friends. The word tasted bitter just hearing it. I took a step closer, not aggressive, just tired. Friends don't make you change your entire outfit. Friends don't make you wear perfume and heels for coffee. It seems like our marriage doesn't have anything to do with you and your ex, right? I thought you said you had nothing to do with him anymore. Her jaw tightened. I could see her weighing whether to keep lying or just say what she really felt. She chose the latter. That's impossible. My ex has been in my life longer than you. The room went silent. Even the TV seemed to quiet down. I watched her face register what she just said, saw the brief flicker of regret before she doubled down with a shrug. Like those words weren't a grenade she just lobbed into the center of our marriage. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just stood there, letting those words settle into my bones, feeling something fundamental shift inside me. All the little things suddenly made sense. The way she'd smile at her phone and tilt it away when I got close, the girls' nights, that started 3 months ago, the gradual distance between us that I'd tried so hard to bridge. Okay, I said quietly. She blinked, clearly expecting a fight. Okay, what? Nothing. You should go. You'll be late. Confusion crossed her face, but she didn't argue. She walked out that door and I listened to her heels click down the hallway, heard the elevator ding, heard the building's front door close behind her. Then I picked up my phone and scrolled to a contact I'd hoped I'd never need. Mike, my buddy from college who'd gone through a divorce 2 years ago. Hey Mike, I said when he answered. I need the name of that divorce attorney you used. Julie came home at 2:47 in the morning. I know because I'd been lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, watching the numbers on the alarm clock change. I heard her key in the lock, heard her trying to be quiet as she slipped inside. Her footsteps paused outside the bedroom door, and I knew she was standing there, probably debating whether to come in or sleep on the couch. The door creaked open. I kept my back to her, eyes closed, breathing steady and deep like I was asleep. I felt the mattress dip as she sat on her side, heard the rustle of fabric as she undressed. She smelled like wine and cologne that wasn't mine. She whispered my name once, testing. I didn't move. She sighed and lay down, the space between us feeling like an ocean. Within minutes, her breathing evened out. She fell asleep easily, probably relieved I hadn't confronted her. She had no idea what was coming. I waited until 6 in the morning when the first light started creeping through the blinds. I'd already mentally cataloged everything that was mine, everything I'd need to take. The coffee maker, I'd brought that from my old apartment. The desk in the spare bedroom, mine. Most of the books on the shelves were mine. Our wedding photos could stay. She'd need them more than I would, eventually. I slipped out of bed while she was still sleeping. In the bathroom, I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. When had I become someone who accepted being second choice? When had I started shrinking myself to fit into someone else's past? 3 years ago I'd been different. I met Julie at Powell's bookstore on a rainy Tuesday, both of us reaching for the same book, some thriller about a woman who disappeared. We'd laughed, bought 2 copies and ended up talking for 4 hours at the coffee shop next door. She had paint stains on her fingers from her graphic design work, and she'd stolen my fries while insisting she wasn't hungry. 6 months later, I proposed at the Japanese garden where we'd had our first real date, under the cherry blossoms. But there had always been that box in the closet. The one labeled Memories in her handwriting, filled with letters and photos and concert tickets from her relationship with James. 5 years they'd been together before he moved to New York for some Wall Street job without asking if she wanted to come. It's just nostalgia, she told me when I'd asked about it. He's not a threat. I should have known better. You don't keep a box of memories unless part of you is still living in them. I called in sick to work, first time in 2 years. Then I started packing. Only my things, nothing that would spark a legal battle. Clothes, laptop, the few pieces of furniture I'd brought into the marriage. I worked methodically, room by room, erasing myself from the space we'd shared. When I got to the living room mantel, I paused at our wedding photo. My hand hovered over it, remembering that day how sure I'd been that we'd make it. I left it there. She could keep the memory of what we'd been. I was taking the lesson of what we'd become. By noon, everything I owned was packed into my car and a small U-Haul trailer. The apartment looked strangely empty with my things gone, like a stage set missing half its props. I stood in the kitchen, pulled out a legal pad and started writing a note. 3 pages worth of everything I wanted to say, how I'd memorized her coffee order, how I'd planned to surprise her with a trip to Italy for our 5th anniversary, how her words last night had shattered something in me I didn't know could break. Then I read it back and realized she didn't deserve my pain. She'd chosen not to cherish it when it mattered. So I burned those pages in the kitchen sink, watching the paper curl and blacken, washing the ashes down the drain. On a fresh sheet, I wrote one sentence, "My lawyer will be in touch." I placed the note on the kitchen table, weighted down by divorce papers I'd printed that morning. Then I walked out, locked the door and slid my key through the mail slot. I didn't look back. Julie came home at 6:15. I wasn't there to see it, but I could imagine it perfectly. She'd call out my name, expecting me to be in the home office or maybe the bedroom. When silence answered, she'd walk through the apartment, noticing the empty spaces. My coffee maker gone from the counter. My jackets missing from the coat rack. The bookshelf half empty. She'd rush to the bedroom, see my side of the closet bare. That's when the panic would set in, the cold realization that I'd actually left. She'd run to the kitchen, see the papers on the table. Her hands would shake as she read my note, all 8 words of it. She called me. My phone was in my pocket as I drove across town to my new apartment, a 1-bedroom place downtown I'd signed a lease for that afternoon. I felt it vibrate, saw her name light up the screen and hit decline. Then I blocked her number. She called again from her work phone. This time it went to voicemail. I'd recorded a new message that morning, "You've reached Dustin. I'm unreachable for personal calls. For legal matters, contact my attorney at." I pulled into the parking garage of my new building, turned off the engine and sat in the silence. No more walking on eggshells. No more competing with a memory. No more wondering if I was enough. The freedom felt strange, unfamiliar, like a weight I'd carried so long I'd forgotten what it felt like without it. My phone buzzed with texts, her parents now, probably after she'd called them in a panic. I blocked those numbers too. Clean break. Complete severance. If I left even one thread connected, she'd use it to pull me back into her chaos. What I didn't know then was that Julie ran straight to James. She called him that same night, voice breaking, telling him I'd left her. "Can we meet?" she'd asked. And James, with that smooth confidence she'd always fallen for, said, "Yeah, come over. It's about time you left that guy anyway." 3 weeks later, she'd moved into his apartment in Seattle. James had done well for himself. Partner at a finance firm, corner office with a view of the Sound, the kind of money that impressed people at parties. For the first few days, Julie probably felt like she'd made the right choice. This was the man she'd compared me to for 3 years, the one who'd set the standard I could never meet. But James wasn't the man she remembered. 5 years changes people, and the romantic figure from her memories had curdled into something harder. He worked 70-hour weeks, came home exhausted and irritable. When Julie cooked dinner, trying to recreate some domestic fantasy, he'd criticize it. "This isn't how I like it." When she suggested meeting her parents, he'd wave her off. "I'm too busy for that family drama." One night, about a month in, Julie was using James's laptop to check her email when a notification popped up. Tinder. She clicked on it before thinking, saw an active profile with recent messages. Her stomach dropped. She confronted him when he got home. "You're still on dating apps?" James barely looked up from his phone. "We never said we were exclusive. We're living together." He finally met her eyes, and there was something cold there she didn't remember from before. "Look, if you don't like it, there's the door. I was fine before you came crawling back." That's when Julie realized the truth. James hadn't taken her back because he loved her. He'd taken her back because his ego couldn't handle seeing her happy with someone else. She'd been a conquest, a box to check, proof he could still pull her back whenever he wanted. Now that he had her, the challenge was gone. 2 months after I left, Julie showed up at her parents' house in Beaverton. Her mother Patricia opened the door and barely recognized her daughter. Julie had lost weight, dark circles carved under her eyes, her hair unwashed and pulled into a messy ponytail. She collapsed into her mother's arms and just sobbed. Patricia and Richard, Julie's father, exchanged a heavy look over their daughter's shaking shoulders. They'd made a mistake and they both knew it. For years they'd subtly undermined my relationship with Julie. Patricia especially had never quite approved of me. I was a software engineer from a middle-class family, stable but not impressive. James came from money, his father owned a chain of car dealerships, and had that charisma that looked good at dinner parties. When Julie married me, Patricia had smiled through the wedding but made comments afterward. "Does Dustin plan to advance in his company?" Or, "I saw James made partner at his firm, did you see his Instagram?" Little digs, small enough to seem innocent, sharp enough to leave marks. But 3 months earlier, Patricia had run into my mother at Safeway. They'd made awkward small talk until my mother, eyes red, said quietly, "My son loved your daughter more than anything. And you helped her throw him away." Then she'd walked off, leaving Patricia standing in the produce section, her cart full of groceries she'd suddenly lost appetite for. Now, sitting in their living room, Richard finally spoke. "Sweetheart, we need to be honest with you. We were wrong about Dustin. We should never have made you feel like James was the better choice." Patricia nodded, tears in her own eyes. "I ran into his mother. She told me things I didn't know. How Dustin turned down a promotion that would have required relocating because you just started your job here. How he paid off your student loans and never mentioned it. How he used to call his mother asking for advice on how to make you happy." Julie looked up, mascara streaking her face. "What?" "You had someone who truly loved you," Richard said. "And we're partly responsible for you not seeing it. You need to get him back." Julie tried everything. She called my number, blocked. She called my work, but I'd updated my employee profile to restrict personal information from unauthorized contacts. She drove to our old apartment, but the landlord told her I'd moved, no forwarding address. She messaged me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all blocked before she could send a second message. Her mother tried calling my mother, blocked. Her father tried my father, blocked. I'd systematically cut off every avenue, severed every connection. The entire family was in the dark, and Julie finally understood what it meant to be erased from someone's life. Desperate, she reached out to Marcus, my best friend from college. He was the only mutual friend who might still talk to her. She sent him a Facebook message, "Marcus, please. I just need to talk to Dustin. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Marcus read it, sat with it for a day, then agreed to meet her at Stumptown Coffee downtown. When Julie arrived, she looked worse than she had at her parents' house. She tried to clean up, makeup applied with shaking hands, hair brushed but limp, but the brokenness showed through everything. She slid into the booth across from him and immediately started talking. Marcus, I know I messed up. I know I hurt him. But I need to explain, I need him to know I realize what I threw away. Please, you have to help me reach him. Marcus stirred his coffee slowly, watching her. Finally he spoke. Do you know what Dustin did the night you came home at 3 a.m. from James's place? Julie shook her head. He called me at 4 in the morning. I'd never heard him cry before. Not when his dad had a heart attack, not when he didn't get the job he wanted in college, never. He said, I'm not enough for her, Marcus. I'll never be enough. That's the last time Dustin let anyone see him vulnerable. Julie's face crumbled. Tears spilled down her cheeks and she didn't bother wiping them away. Marcus continued, his voice harder now. He spent the next 2 weeks in therapy, working out every day, rebuilding himself. He's not the same man you left, Julie. He's better, stronger, happier. And he doesn't need you anymore. Please, Julie whispered. Just let me tell him I'm sorry. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. Marcus called me from the coffee shop. Man, Julie's here. She wants to talk to you. She's broken, dude. I was in my apartment about to head to the climbing gym. Through my window, I could see the city lights starting to come on as evening settled in. 6 months had passed since I'd left. 6 months of therapy with Dr. Morrison, working through codependency patterns and people-pleasing behaviors. 6 months of CrossFit and rock climbing and learning what it felt like to prioritize myself. 6 months of rediscovering who Dustin was when he wasn't trying to be enough for someone who'd already decided he wasn't. Tell her I'll send one text, I said. That's all she gets. I hung up and opened a new message to Marcus's number. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. I could have written paragraphs. I could have listed every way she'd hurt me, every night I'd lain awake wondering what I was doing wrong, every time I'd seen her smile at her phone and felt my stomach twist. But she didn't need my pain. She needed finality. I typed, Julie, I hope you find peace. I hope you learn to value people who value you. But I'm not your safety net. I'm not the man waiting for you to figure out what you lost. I spent a year competing with a ghost and I lost myself in that process. I found myself again when I walked away. I wish you well, but I wish you well from a distance. Don't contact me again. This is goodbye. I sent it and immediately blocked Marcus's number too. Then I changed my own number and only gave it to people who'd earned it. At the coffee shop, Marcus handed his phone to Julie. She read the message 3 times, her hands trembling so badly she almost dropped the phone. She started typing, I'm sorry, but deleted it. Typed, I love you, and deleted that too. Typed, please, and couldn't even finish the word before deleting it. Finally, she just whispered to Marcus, tell him I understand. But Marcus's phone was already showing, message failed to send. I was gone. Completely, finally, irrevocably gone. Julie's life unraveled quickly after that. James had kicked her out following a particularly nasty fight about his dating app. She'd found messages to 3 different women, all sent while she was sleeping in his bed. She couldn't afford the old apartment on her salary alone. I'd been paying 70% of the rent without ever mentioning it. She moved back into her childhood bedroom at her parents' house. 29 years old, sleeping under the same roof where she dreamed about her future, now facing the reality that she'd destroyed it with her own choices. Her boss at the marketing firm noticed her declining performance. Missed deadlines, lackluster designs, distracted during meetings. 6 months after I left, she was demoted from senior designer to junior associate with a 30% pay cut. The lowest point came 8 months post-divorce. Julie was scrolling through LinkedIn at 2 in the morning. Insomnia had become her constant companion. When she saw my promotion announcement, there I was in a professional photo, wearing a suit I'd bought for the occasion, genuinely smiling. The caption read, excited to announce my promotion to senior engineering manager. Grateful for everyone who believed in me. The comments section was full of congratulations. And there near the top, a comment from someone named Melissa. So proud of you. Dinner to celebrate? Red heart. Julie stared at that heart emoji for 20 minutes. Then she closed her laptop, pulled her knees to her chest, and cried until she couldn't breathe. Her mother found her like that an hour later, sat on the edge of the bed and just held her while she broke. 2 years passed. I built a life I'd only dreamed about when I was married. The promotion came with a significant raise, and I moved into a modern 2-bedroom apartment with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I traveled to conferences in Austin, Denver, San Francisco. I made new friends, joined a climbing club, took a solo trip to Iceland that changed how I saw myself. The therapy helped most of all. Dr. Morrison taught me to recognize the patterns, How I'd been seeking validation through making other people happy, how I'd confused sacrifice with love. You can't compete for someone's heart, she told me in one session. Either they choose you or they don't. And when they don't, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is accept it and move on. I'd accepted it, moved on. And somewhere in that process I met Melissa. She was a project manager at a tech startup, brilliant and funny and refreshingly direct. We met at a climbing gym, both reaching for the same hold on a difficult route. You go ahead, she'd said laughing. I was about to fall anyway. We got coffee after, talked for 3 hours, and I realized something fundamental. I wasn't thinking about Julie. Wasn't comparing Melissa to her. Wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. 6 months later I proposed. Simple, honest, in the Japanese garden where I'd once proposed to someone else. But this time felt different. Right. Like I was choosing someone who was also choosing me fully and completely. Marcus posted an engagement photo on social media. Me in a sharp suit, Melissa in a blue dress, both of us beaming. His caption read, "Congrats to my boy Dustin on his engagement. She's incredible, man. You deserve this." Julie saw it. I know because Marcus told me later, feeling guilty. She called him crying, asking how I was, if I was really happy. Marcus, to his credit, told her the truth, happier than I've ever seen him. Julie was still living with her parents, still working as a junior designer, still single. She tried dating. A few awkward coffee dates with men from apps, one brief relationship that fizzled after 6 weeks when the guy realized she wasn't over someone. She couldn't explain that it wasn't heartbreak keeping her stuck, it was regret. The night she saw my engagement photo, she scrolled through my LinkedIn profile, my public Instagram posts, piecing together a life I'd built without her. Every photo showed someone thriving, hiking in Patagonia, at tech conferences, rock climbing with friends, candid shots with Melissa where we both looked genuinely, easily happy. She zoomed in on one photo, a close-up of my face, and studied it. I looked peaceful. Free. The weight I'd carried during our marriage, the constant trying, the endless effort to be enough, was gone. I was looking at Melissa the way I'd once looked at Julie, but different somehow. More certain. More settled. "Julie, dinner's ready," her mother called from downstairs. Julie closed the app, wiped her eyes, and whispered to the empty room, "I had that. I had someone who loved me like that." She walked downstairs to the same dining room table where we'd celebrated our wedding engagement 4 years ago. Her father glanced at her red-rimmed eyes but said nothing. They ate in silence, the weight of unspoken regrets filling the space between them. Later that night, Julie lay in her childhood bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars she'd stuck on the ceiling when she was 12. She thought about the box of memories she'd kept in our closet, James's letters, photos, concert tickets. She'd thrown it away after he kicked her out, finally understanding that you can't build a future while clinging to a past that never really existed. But by then I'd already built a future without her. And I'd never looked back. Some people don't lose love because they're unloved. They lose it because they couldn't let go of what was over to appreciate what was real. Julie learned that lesson too late. And somewhere across town, in an apartment filled with laughter and light, I was learning what it felt like to be chosen first, every single day.